Welcome to this training about how to find the best product ideas and win support for them without wasting time or money. If you're currently spending all of your time curating a backlog or messing around with a roadmap, if most of your conversations, most of your team conversations are about agile processes and are we doing this right? And are we doing it well enough? Are we following agile? And if you're looking back at your product and you're seeing that over the course of the past 6 months, nothing has fundamentally changed about what we've built, then this training is for you. And I'm really excited to share it with you because if you do everything that I'm about to share with you in here, you will begin producing better ideas that actually work for your users, actually work for the people that care about your product that you are trying to serve as you build your product. So let's go ahead and get started. We see that there are 3 major challenges for product folks. The first challenge is that your product ideas just don't work. You put them out there, you have a new idea, you put it out there, you put it in front of users, you go through all the trouble of building the software, and when you put it out there, they just don't care. Like, it doesn't fundamentally move the needle. And there are 3 things that causes. One is it frustrates the team because who wants to work on something that doesn't actually end up working? It ends up wasting a lot of time and money, and that of course leads to opportunity loss, a lost opportunity cost. So what you could be investing that time on something more valuable, something that actually produced results. Instead, you've now wasted that time building something that didn't produce value for your product or for the business. The second problem that we see is that your product doesn't change. And this creates some problems, creates some challenges. It leaves your product vulnerable to disruption. So another product can come along and usurp your product or overtake in your market because your product hasn't fundamentally changed. Your team and leadership will actually start to disengage because it's the product that doesn't move. It's the product that doesn't change. And things that don't change don't get much attention from the people around them. And this begins the slow decline to obscurity. It begins the slow decline towards irrelevance. Your product, if it doesn't change, you know that in today's world, a product must change in order for it to keep up with the market. And if it doesn't, it begins that slow decline. The third problem that we see is that your ideas are not getting the support they need. So you're taking them to leadership, you're putting them in front of leadership, you're putting maybe in front of your team, and the reaction is, I don't get it, or frustration, or pain. It causes all sorts of problems. It leaves a potentially great idea off the table, all because you didn't know how to position it. It reduces trust from leadership because every idea that you bring isn't great. Every idea that you bring sort of like doesn't fit and it doesn't work. And all of this can be frustrating and lead to self-doubt, which causes you to question, like, am I even capable of doing this role? Is it possible? Can I do this role well? So it causes you to ask all those sorts of questions, which only get in your way and serve to repeat and perpetuate this vicious cycle that you're in where your product ideas aren't working, your product isn't changing, your ideas are not getting support, and it just continues on and on and on. And here's the problem. You are on a development team when in fact you need to be on a product team. And there's a difference, and I want to talk about that difference over the course of this training. So let's look at an example. We work with an organization called Crossroads who had an underperforming technology team. It was a technology team that was not delivering new ideas and new value. And through work with them, we transitioned them to a set of product teams where the product teams were in fact the ones setting the direction. They were living in a place where they had innovation stagnation. So there just weren't new ideas coming out of the product teams. Through our work with them, they've established a regular idea pipeline that helped to grow the organization and help further and accomplish the mission of the organization. And they moved in the course of that from a 3% funding model for the technology teams to a 13% funding model for the product teams. In the course of that transition, we made a number of changes that I'm going to tell you about throughout the course of this training. But it's a major transition from an underperforming team to a performing team, from a team that was bottom third in terms of respect and trust in the organization to at the top, if not at the top third for sure, and if not the top of the organization in terms of trust and drive within the organization. So that's what this is about. We want to show you that throughout these steps. So let's take a look at the 3 steps toward finding the best product ideas and winning support for them while transitioning your team to a product team. Step number 1 is all about customer voices, the path to new ideas starts with the voice of your customer. The customer voices are, in fact, the raw materials that feed into the idea factory or the idea engine. So the idea is you want to capture the key customer voices, but the problem is that's overwhelming if you look at the whole thing. If you try to tackle all those, you're going to fail. So what you do, start with 3 daily metrics. 3 metrics that you as a product person are going to look at on a daily basis to see what is happening with my product, where is it going, why, how are people reacting to the thing that we just launched or just created. And we're going to create weekly customer conversations where we're having dialogues with actual customers about actual problems that they're facing on a weekly basis to get to know them, to get to understand them, to identify with them, and hopefully to sort of socialize and bring back the information that you're learning, and even you're learning in those conversations, as well as taking people from your team and organization into those conversations with you. As we do that, you're going to start looking for harmony across all of those different voices. All these different voices are going to be coming into you, and you're going to want to know what is the common thread that connects each one of these voices. These ideas then are conceived in these customer conversations. The problem that you're going to run into is that most customers, you and I included, don't actually know what we want. So you have to listen slowly. You have to hear what they're saying, slow yourself down, start to wonder what is the problem that they're really solving, and create dialogue with your team, create dialogue with people in your organization, and question and wonder and think about what are the challenges that they are actually facing. It's about listening slowly to identify the problem. And then the last thing you want to do is to be naive. You need to approach this work like a child. You need to approach it without the knowledge that you've got, with all your preconceived notions, your preconceived biases. You need to set all of those aside and look at the world through the eyes of a child, practicing the art of ignorance to make sure that you're seeing the problems as clearly as possible. And when you do this, and then you iterate and grow it, so you iterate the customer voices that are coming in, you iterate the way that you're having dialogue about them, you improve the quality of that voice over the course of time. And eventually, if you look back 12 months after continually developing this process, you have an amazing path for hearing the customer voice inside your organization. So at Crossroads, what this looked like is we started with a bunch of internally conceived problems, and we ended in a world where we had real customer-sourced problems. So this is a little bit about how we made that transition. An idea. We had an idea. We want to build a second screen app. So an app to consume some content while the main event was going on. So we started with that idea. We started looking at it. We actually started building it and realized, like, wait, this is probably a mistake. So we started some customer conversations and had conversations with people who were actually going to be our users. We started implementing a small set of customer analytics, just enough to get an understanding of what are they actually doing. How are they actually using the things that we're putting in front of them? In short, we grew the customer's voice and we made it louder so that we could hear more clearly. And at the end of the day, we actually built an app for taking notes, not an app for a second screen experience. It turns out when we raised the customer's voice, we built a product that actually served them instead of one that we wanted for ourselves. Step number 2 in this process is the idea engine. Your team must develop the process for turning customer conversations into testable ideas that you can prove out. This is the idea engine. So you need to transition your team to be part of this. Your development team needs to be part of this process. And they need to be part of it from beginning to end, from the early parts of the customer conversations, and ideally includes designers, but from the early parts of the customer conversations all the way through the testing of the ideas and, of course, the implementation of those ideas. You want to bring designers along the way. You want to have them help you identify new ideas. You want to be testing those ideas, putting them in front of users. In fact, what you want to be doing is having your development team refine the ideas within the business needs and business constraints you've got, identify the business opportunities, test them, and then go about implementing them after you've proven they will in fact grow your business. While you're doing that, you want to manage 4 key risk areas. The first of those is value risk. And the question that you want to answer is, will customers choose it? And maybe a higher bar is, will customers switch? Can we, while we're building this product or while we're considering making these adjustments or tweaks or feature additions to the product, can we build them in such a way that they're going to create so much value that users are going to switch from other products to this or other approaches to this? And the second risk to consider is the feasibility risk. Are we capable of building it? For the most part, the answer to this question is almost always going to be yes. But maybe it's cost prohibitive, maybe it's too big, maybe there are technology challenges. This question is to prompt you to figure out how to mitigate those risks and deal with them before they become too big or you discover that it's not possible. The third risk to consider is usability risk. Can we design and build this thing in such a way that it will actually be usable, or is it too complex? Can we design it in such a way that people will want to use it because it's simple, or are we going to make it too complicated along the way? And the third risk to consider is the business value risk. Does this build the business? Does it help our product to add to the portfolio of our company? And the reason that we put this question last is because we don't want it to obscure the possibilities that are asked and answered in all of the first three questions. So those are the four key risks that you want to manage. And if you do all these things above, you'll now have a process for turning customer problems into proven solutions that then you can go and implement. So no longer will you be building something on a hunch, hoping that when you put it out in the market that it actually flies. You'll know before you put it out in the market that it's going to be effective. Example from Crossroads. We moved that team from a team that was building the next feature to testing tiny versions of each idea in an effort to identify the best ones and move forward. So what that looked like is we started with feature roadmaps. So we had feature roadmaps describing where we were going and what we were trying to accomplish when we got there. We did some design sprints to develop new generation or next generation app ideas. We started falling in love with our solutions less. So we started falling more in love with the user's problems and less in love with the solutions that we had conceived. And then we started putting those ideas in front of real users by bringing people in, having them sit down with prototypes, by taking our prototypes out for coffee and having people walk through the prototypes over a coffee, doing those kinds of activities. And that moved us from feature roadmaps to a pipeline of ideas. Step number 3 in this process is all about investor positioning. Here's the deal. You must sell your product. You have to sell your product ideas. They have to be sold into your leadership in order to get the support and the funding that you need to build them. And it's really fascinating. You have to start at the very beginning. So you want to plot a path from the very beginning, which starts with your mission, vision, goals, and your roadmap. And you want to follow, you can build that as the foundation upon which you will build your entire product. From there, you need to change the way you view your leadership. Your leadership is an investor. The job of an investor is to get a return on the money that they're investing. And no wise investor is going to invest in unproven ideas. In fact, it's really important that you understand this is not about trust, and it's not about you. It's not about do they trust you. This is about them. They have managers, they have needs, they have business goals, they also have career goals that they're trying to accomplish, and they want to make the best possible investment choices. And they can only do that if you can provide them with the best possible information to make those choices. And they're going to be way more likely to go with your ideas from an investment standpoint if you're able to demonstrate those ideas in a way that proves the value to them. To make this work, you need to guide your team and your leadership through the same thought process that you went through to arrive at the idea that you're trying to get funded. The truth is you hopped like 14 islands to get to the point that you're at right now. You went from this idea to this idea to this idea to this idea. And as you did that, your thinking changed, your direction changed, the thoughts you had about the product changed, the thoughts you had about the customer changed. What you have to do is go all the way back to island number 1, start there with your leadership, start there with your team, and walk them through each of the steps that you took. It may have taken you months to get there, and you can do it in an hour with your leadership. But they need to hop the same islands that you hop, and if they don't, they're not going to believe you. And it's not because they don't trust you, it's because they can't see what you saw along that journey. You have to take them on that journey. So you do these things, and when you position it this way for your investor, you will get the support, you will get the funding you need to build successful products. So an example from Crossroads. Early on, we were pitching product ideas and concepts and sort of painting this picture in the sky of what the world could look like. And over the course of time, we realized that the issues and challenges that we were having were because we were pitching without prototypes and without narratives. And so we transitioned to pitching with prototypes and with narratives. It looks something like this. We should build an app that does blah. And then we would paint these pictures of what the app might do. And there's a bunch wrong with that. But this is what we did to make the transition. So we started putting our leadership at the center of the dialogue. We started worrying about and questioning and wondering what are the same things that they're worrying about and questioning and wondering about. We started building clickable app prototypes for new features. So instead of painting pictures in the sky, we painted pictures on paper and digitally and let those things do the talking for us. And then we added to that vision narratives. So instead of a nice, concise vision statement that was a sentence long, we wrote a 2-page vision narrative, written many of these now, written 2-page vision narrative that describes what the world looks like, what the smells are like, what it sounds like. It allows the person listening to it or hearing it to put themselves into a position of actually being there, actually seeing what it's like. So in that world, we move from thoughts like, we should build an app that does blah, to let's take a look at these ideas together. Let's see what they have to say about what the world could be like. All right, so we've been through 3 things. We've been through customer voices, the idea engine, and investor positioning. And here's the deal. If you don't do these things, you will get innovation stagnation. That is just how it works. And that begins the slippery slope to product obscurity. It's the thing that begins the decline to your product becoming irrelevant, your work becoming irrelevant, and not adding value to the organization. It leads to wasted time and money on bad product ideas. It leads to lost opportunity costs, so time that you should have been spending on something else, you've just now lost it. It leads to frustrated customers. It leads to frustrated leadership because you're not seeing its product move forward. The product is slowly declining, will soon be taken over. It leads to increased or continued product stagnation. And the problem that this creates is that the weight of the next product idea is on you. You have to be the one to go find that product idea. All of this leads to self-doubt and self-frustration, like, can I do this role? Am I capable of delivering a great product? So you have the choice. You can do that, or you can go after creating customer voices, idea engine, and an investor positioning in such a way that it builds out your product innovation pipeline. You put those 3 things together and you can produce product ideas that work. And the choice really is yours. Do you want to start tackling things like having more time to invest on the product? Do you want your solutions to get funded more frequently? Do you want solutions that actually succeed in the marketplace because you're solving real customer problems, creating happier customers? You will, as a result, get more engaged team members that are more interested in working on the product, because who doesn't want to work on a product that's going somewhere? And then last, this will build your personal path to success. You'll actually grow as a person. You'll step into this role more fully. You'll be capable of tackling things that you couldn't previously tackle. And your product will be going places that it wasn't capable of going before. This is, in fact, a product team. And so you have a choice. Do you want to continue staying where you're at with a feature team that's just writing some software? Or do you want to pursue the transformation of your team from a software development team to a product team? Do you want to start to build the type of idea pipeline, the type of innovation pipeline that you need in order to take your product to the next level? And if you're ready to take the next step, I want you to set up a 30-minute brainstorm call with me. And in that call, we're going to brainstorm ways that you, in your current role, can start gathering the raw materials that you need for your idea engine. We'll talk about how you can start constructing your idea engine so that you have a path to take those raw materials, turn them into ideas that you can test and prove out that they actually work before you start building them yourself. And then we'll talk about how you can position your ideas to get more buy-in from your leadership, to get more buy-in from your team, get the support you need in order to continue building them out and improving your product. I want you to know this call is 100% value for you. This is about you and your team. There's no pitching, there's no selling involved in this call. If you decide you want to work together after the call, that we can schedule an additional call to make that happen. But this is about helping you build the products that are most successful in your market, that you're most capable of delivering, helping you get the respect that you deserve from both your team and your leadership as you do that. And so, and here's the deal. I really want you to set up time only though if you're incredibly serious about transforming your team and building out your innovation pipeline. If that's not where you're at, if you're not ready, don't worry about it. Don't bother right now. But if now's the time and you're ready to make a commitment to making some changes, schedule a 30-minute call with me by clicking the button below this video. I also want you to know that the spaces are extremely limited. This is going out to a lot of people. And so first come, first serve basis. There are a limited number of time slots they're going to go. So click the button below, grab 30 minutes on my calendar, and start the path to building your innovation pipeline and a better product. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video and watch this training. I've enjoyed sharing it with you. I hope you have a great day. Thanks a lot.